For Paris-based correspondents 1 hour, and with us is Craig Capidis of Quartz in the Atlantic Group. Thank you for being with us. Also with us, Régis Le Sommier, Deputy Editor-in-Chief at French news weekly magazine Paris Match, Célestine Bolen, freelance reporter and also teacher now at the French Political Science Institute, Sciences Po, and Douglas Herbert, France 24 International Affairs Editor. The World This Week, where you can weigh in on the conversation, and you have on Facebook and also on Twitter. You can find us at François F24. Before the curtain rises on 4 days of spin and silly hats at the Democratic Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina, let's take a look back at 4 days of spin and silly hats at the Republican Convention in Tampa, Florida. The culminating moment, Thursday's official nomination of Mitt Romney as the party's presidential nominee. So, what was everyone in the newsroom talking about the day after?
So, Mr. President, how do you handle promises that you made when you were running for election, and how do you handle it? I mean, what do you say to people? Do you just people were wondering? You don't have it. Okay. Oh, what do you mean? Shut up.
All right, I suppose it's supposed to be Obama that's in that chair. Craig Capidis, you were commenting on this live. Were you taken aback a bit?
Well, not really. The Republican convention this year was a lot of old white guys and a lot of young white guys who wanted to be old white guys, and this was the culmination, if not the apotheosis of that moment. I mean, he's Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood can pretty much do what Clint Eastwood wants to do. I don't think it was a very smart political move because he's going to be
he was the ultimate old white guy.
Yeah, he's the ultimate old white guy.
82, right?
Yeah, and the picture that they had behind him, with the cowboy hat, with the gun, and and I mean, he's an American icon. France has streaks. We have Clint Eastwood. Who would you rather go to a bar with?
Well, one gets elected, the other one.
That's right.
All right. Well, it did not take long to go viral. By Friday afternoon, the Invisible Obama Twitter account was up to 41,000 followers, with retweets that include the official account of the visible in plain sight version of the U.S. president. Yes, on the official account, Barack Obama saying, "This seat is taken." Left-wing documentary filmmaker Michael Moore goes beyond Clint Eastwood and directs his peeks at everyone else inside of that convention hall. Saying it's as if they want a divorce from us, the American mainstream, so they can go live in the land of legitimate rapes and ice caps that don't melt. Thanks, Clint. You made our day. It was.
They were having night sweats, I think, backstage. The Republicans as well, because Craig called them an American icon. That's exactly what I think the Republicans issued that damage control statement sort of directly after he made that speech. So they were very cognizant of the fact that this was not perhaps this is not a shining moment, and they needed quickly to step in and run interference there.
Nice to see, though, in an era of spin, sometimes there is improvisation, Régis Le Sommier.
Well, it's good. I mean, I saw, Romney backed from. I mean, quickly the campaign said, well, I mean, he's only responsible for what he says, and he's an artist, but let's give credit to the Republicans, I must say, because they've been accused of not bringing stars to their convention, and for once they had a really big movie star, and he did what he did, but
and it wasn't stuffy. You have to give your due where it's due. I mean, usually Republicans don't even try to be funny because
they're not humorless.
Sorry.
So it changed this year.
As we were saying, though, there was another speaker on closing night, the nominee himself, who hammered home a simple mantra.
What is needed in our country today is not complicated or profound. It doesn't take a special government commission to tell us what America needs. What America needs is jobs, lots of jobs.
12 million jobs, he says. 12 million jobs, Célestine Bolen.
Where's he going to find them? That's an interesting question. No, I mean, I think it's interesting because he also went after Obama, saying he doesn't have the qualifications that are needed now, which is to, have been in business, to have sort of had run a company. And the fact of the matter is that businessmen who've been elected presidents actually don't do very well. I mean, in fact, being president is not about running a company. It's about something entirely different. And I think it's amazing that he walked right into that, because also his record as a businessman is part of the debate. I mean, it's a contentious issue. I'm not sure who's right, but I mean, it's certainly not that he's some shining knight in shining armor on that subject. So I just found that weird, that he would sort of use that angle of attack.
I mean, it's clear. I mean, all of this the voter polls showing basically hammer away at the economy. That is the number one issue in voters' minds. So, I mean, it's sort of polling 101, I suppose.
Right.
Yes, hammer away at Obama and his supposed broken promises, but, just keep saying the economy, keep mentioning it, keep saying jobs. You say it enough times, throw out the figures, the 12 million jobs you'll create or whatever, 23 million unemployed right now in the U.S. And time and again, the polling shows it actually does work. At least in the short term, in the immediate aftermath, you do sometimes see a short bounce in those poll numbers. And it's interesting because I was speaking to the Gallup pollster earlier this week, Frank Newport, and he was telling me that, as we know, Obama wins on likability, hands down, over Romney. But Romney, time and again in every poll, Gallup or the others, always on the economy is seen as more competent.
Absolutely.
Except that he is not.
Whether he is or not.
No, but
And-
the
and
problem
in
is that he got
fact,
sort of deflected off
Craig
the economy.
Capidis, on the World This Week's Facebook page, we have a viewer who gave us all these polling figures that show the Republicans running neck and neck and sometimes ahead. There's always a bump with these conventions. Are we going to see the counter bump come afterwards,
Well,
or are
you
the Republicans
will,
really
but-
in it with a shot to win it?
It's always dangerous to talk bumps in polls, but at this point, Obama should be at least 18 to 20 points ahead of Romney. He's not. They are neck and neck. And for the next few months, you're going to hear everyone parsing this every which way. They're going to hear people saying, no, you lied. No, you lied about this. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. The bottom line to what you saw at the conventions is this. America is divided into two camps. One camp believes that you need a chief executive officer now to run the country. You can criticize that, heap opprobrium on it, but that the situation is so bad, you need a CEO and a chief financial officer, Paul Ryan, whether one likes him or not, who's a number wonk, who can do this. The other camp is portrayed, rightly or wrongly, as essentially Smolny and St. Petersburg during the Russian Revolution with Lenin and the boys running around who want to turn the United States into a socialist country. And what you're seeing in the United States amongst the middle class is they believe that the White House is a socialist encampment, true or false. And that's where you see the argument. You see on the Republican network, Fox, that's all you hear. On MSNBC, the Democratic network, you hear the other. And this, I've never seen such a bifurcated election and people who are bifurcated over this. Romney tells lies, but you know what? Obama has told lies too. They all tell lies. The big criticism this morning of Romney was, well, he didn't give any specifics. No presidential candidate gives specifics during their acceptance speech. That's not the format for it. And this is going to continue, and it's going to get very contentious, very cantankerous, and it's going to be curious to see who pulls it off. He's only they're neck and neck. This is unheard of in modern polling at this point.
And this was really unexpected, especially at this time, I think. And
Yes.
the problem, what I see is positive for the Republicans during this convention is that with the rise of Paul Ryan, it seems that they're in order. Now they're in order for the battle. Romney has found his running mate. They're going to go together. He's young. He's talented.
He's not going to upstage him?
Well, that's one of the problems. But for now, it seems that they're going to, work as a and Obama, and it's really going to be about the Republican has shown so far divisions. They saw there was a problem with women. Huge problem
And it
with women.
continues.
And it
does.
continues.
It does.
But they've tried their best. I mean, Romney has tried their best, bringing his wife, bringing
Excuse me,
hasn't worked.
that doesn't really cut it.
But to go, and to focus and to, shift the topic on the economy, on who's going to lead the country. Is Obama a decisive leader? Is he somebody who really is able to shake America and put it back on track? The people now have learned one thing about Obama. 4 years have passed. He has not really put America back on the real right
But there were
track.
such high expectations going in.
There
I
were.
mean,
There
you know,
were.
to
He
be-
had a
Right.
crisis to deal with. We know all that. And the same thing with Hollande in France right now. He's going to say, "Oh, there's such a huge crisis." However, Obama has been there for 4 years. And the American people are a bit pissed because they haven't seen America back at it. They haven't seen America really rising again.
But he's also
And
faced
so
an obstructionist,
Yeah.
very
Yeah. I mean,
obstructionist,
there's some-
fiercely
Which,
partisan
by the
warfare.
way,
That's
was
right.
one
That's
of
right.
the-
That's what the David Brooks wrote this morning. But that's interesting. But the problem is now. So it's going to be a problem of perception. Is Obama going to be held accountable on his record? And I think that's what the Republicans are doing. They're trying to shift from their own problem, their problem with women, their problem with rape, and all those. Usually, it was. a big
No,
thing,
but
you know.
I mean,
And that's,
but
by
to
the way,
go
I would also...
after Obama on the economy, and if they succeed that, they have a chance.
Craig was
But-
saying before. I'm sorry, but Craig was saying before that Obama, maybe he should be. Some people think he should be ahead 18 to 20 points by now. You can make the opposite argument. It's amazing that he's not behind.
Yeah.
Perhaps 15 to 20 points.
With the
It's
economy the way-
amazing.
When
It's
was
amazing.
When was
given-
unemployment
right.
at 9-10%?
9-10%. Given
Do
what he's
the
inherited,
average-
2 wars, high unemployment, rising
Can the
soaring
average
national
American
debt.
see the difference? Can the average American really feel that Obama has made so much or has made really an effort? America
Well, and,
likes to see
there-
itself as a conqueror
I
nation.
think a
Sells
couple
Tim
things.
Bowen.
One is that he says jobs and he wants to keep it on jobs. But I mean, in the time since they nominated Ryan, that it hasn't been just jobs. It's been rape. It's been abortion.
Yeah.
It's been all sorts of issues on which Mitt Romney has not been a single steady candidate with a sort of solid set of values. He's flipped and he's flopped, and these are issues which the
And
Democrats are going
Obama
to.
has flipped and flopped.
Well,
they
fine,
both,
but I
they
mean-
both have.
I mean-
Let's not forget that.
Well, fine, but
They're
I mean, I'm
both
just saying
equally
that
culpable.
it leaves it's hard. It's easier to nail Romney on the flipping and the flopping than it is on Obama,
So
in
is
my
Romney
view.
gonna
I
be
mean,
the-
honestly,
even,
I mean,
like,
I
just
say
the
what his
flip-flop
record.
And even let's be fair here.
2012.
Even on Ryan, who's being pitched as this economic mastermind who's maybe going to help salvage Romney's campaign, they're starting to crunch the numbers. They're starting to actually look at the substance of what he's saying. When push comes to shove, you see even when he starts talking about Medcare,
Yeah,
it's
he
not.
used the same numbers.
He's
that,
using the same numbers, and
716 million,
right.
which is what
It,
he's.
it starts to, when you really pick it apart, it sounds great. He's a great speaker. He's
He's
charismatic.
young and he's dynamic, and that's
he's
good.
young and dynamic, and that's what they're looking for. He's great on the podium. He's great for showmanship.
You all make good points, but again, it goes back to this debate.
No,
that
I
many
agree with
people
you.
in the United States
I agree.
believe that it needs a chief executive officer
No, you're
to run it.
No, I knew.
They
but
believe that
more,
was
more
Steve Forbes. They believe
significantly,
that Ross
I think it's a
Perot.
great
Yeah, I
divide.
mean,
In fact,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a very deep. I've
Yeah.
just come back from the States, and I have to say it's really striking. I mean, it's almost like a sort of a religious.
Is it because the mayor of New
war.
York's the
You are
CEO of a
either
company,
here or
Michael
you are there.
Bloomberg?
Oh,
What?
please. No, but this lends us one final, if I can say this quickly,
Yeah.
one final thing. Mitt Romney is not a politician. He's running for office. He fits all the definitions.
He's not really a businessman either.
No.
though.
Well, no, he actually.
Who is he?
He is a
That's the
businessman.
title
He-
on a lot of.
He's a
you know,
businessman.
magazine
He's an
covers.
organizer. He's a chief executive officer, but he's not a politician. Never has been.
Well, and I'm saying
All right, we'll see.
businessmen don't make good politicians. I mean, that's
going
part
back
of
to
my.
Hoover.
And we'll see.
No, I'm going back to sort of a bunch of others. So, I forget the names, but I mean, basically.
James Garfield.
Yeah, whatever. But I mean, it's
Well, obviously,
running a
see how,
company is not the same.
how it goes again next week. It's the Democrats who will have their chance to tell their tale. Now, speaking of spin, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad sitting down for an hour with Adunia TV, a station majority owned by his cousin, controversial businessman Rami Makhlouf. In the first long interview since a July suicide attack on his inner circle, Assad admitted it would take time to defeat the rebellion, but expressed confidence and mocked those who've defected.
Good people and patriots do not flee, do not leave their country. This operation is a positive operation. It's a self-cleansing of the government firstly and the country in general.
Régis Le Sommier, the conflict in Syria has lasted for 17 months. And we've seen Bashar al-Assad through that interview he granted to ABC's Barbara Walters. We've seen him through those emails that were leaked to The Guardian, his personal conversations. And now we have this interview. Do we get a better sense of who he is?
It's really what struck me with this interview first is you have to see. I mean, the interview itself is interesting, but the teasers that were made by Al Dunya television were also very interesting. They were almost made like CNN. Like it was CNN. You're gonna have with a loud music, an increasingly loud music in the back, and then all of a sudden a sentence by Bashar, and then once again. So they made a lot. They put a lot of effort to convince their viewers that it was going to be a very important moment, and it was in a way, because I don't know if Bashar is very convincing. I don't know if we can see through this interview in particular, or other interviews he's given before, who he truly is. What is he totally delusional, or well, you know, it's really hard to say. I mean, I can't personally say if he's winning or losing this war, if his regime is about to die, or he's able to cling to power.
But this delusional aspect, there's a part of me that strongly believes that he truly is deluded about the state of his country, that it's not just cynical, that he doesn't actually know what's going on.
Or is he just locked into a situation where he can't back down?
There's
no exit.
Well, there is no exit. There's no exit, but there's a part of me that you watch what he's saying, and he says it time and again, and it's almost he's created his own, you know, he's made his own bed, he's sleeping in it right now, but it's almost like he begins to believe it. You know, he drank the Kool-Aid. I begin after a certain point. He probably does begin to believe his own rhetoric when he talks of these the opposition as the terrorist thugs. Gaddafi, right?
You're right. You're right. You got the impression after watching this that the Republican National Committee should have sent Clint Eastwood not to Tampa but to downtown Damascus. You watch this interview and you watch the stuff out of Syria, and I have to say this because this is what he reminds me of. He reminds me of a Hitler figure in the last days of the bunker here. I mean, this man is delusional. He was just killing his own people before. Now he's massacring them, and everyone's worried about him using chemical weapons on him. It's hard to believe that a guy of this age, who probably listens to rock and roll, is actually doing this.
Yeah.
You know, except
to
that
his
again,
people.
I mean, I think the problem is that, you know, and because of the stalemate at the UN, et cetera, there is no exit strategy for him, and I think that's always the case for these diplomatic kind of stalemates. Is that if you can find a way for him to go, you know, say. I mean,
but how could they do it, so?
But I don't know how they could do it. But I mean, I've watched him, and I think I wonder what are the pressure points. I mean, when we say, if only the Russians would sort of put pressure on him, how would they do it, and how could they do it? Or, as we say again, he's just stuck in his sort of own myth and he himself has no exit plan. You know,
do you see any pressure? I don't see.
Very briefly before we go to the break.
I think there was an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal 2 days ago about one of the reporters went to Latakia and actually got a sense of what was going there, because that's the heartland of the Alawite family and the Alawite tribes, and he talked about. The army getting looking more and more as an Alawite militia. And that there is a shift, and now there are those young men coming from those villages committing to the army. What's happening there is there's funeral all the time from soldiers faithful to the regime.
So they've definitely reached a tipping point at this point. We're going to have to take a quick break at this point. We'll come back. We'll look at Syria through the prism of Iran, and also the latest in the battle between Apple and Samsung.